And welcome back to America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates with Nolan Baker and Chaz Price. 419-794-3030 is the phone number. The website, arhq.com. The pandemic certainly served up a lesson on mortality, and that has apparently drifted into more people rethinking their interest in long-term care insurance. There's an article in Financial Advisor magazine that talked about inquiries from people ages 70 and up that they've increased, where the normal clientele is usually between the ages of 48 and 62. So let's talk about this. Is 70 too late to discuss long-term care policies, and what kind of planning do you recommend?
I would say not at all. I'm surprised that, this year, that's probably been one of our biggest questions and topics that we've had at numerous events that we've got, and people wondering about, what are the solutions on how to protect my assets so I don't have to go broke if I have a healthcare crisis. We recently met with some folks, and we'll call them Dave and Lori. Dave served in Vietnam. Unfortunately, he had some combat service-related injuries from his service to our country. And, as a veteran myself, I love serving our veterans. In his particular situation, when you think about traditional long-term care planning, long-term care insurance is not really going to be a choice for him because of his health status that he had. But the great news is he does have some support here. We have what's called our Veteran Service Organization. So, encourage him to get together and have a conversation with the VSO. So if you're either local here, reach out to our office. I'd be happy to make some introductions to some of the individuals that I know are at the VSO that can help you with what your benefits are if you served. If you're national, just check out your local organization of the VSO. And so then the question would be, what happens if something happens to Dave and maybe he passes away, and Lori, there she is, not having any long-term care protection in place. She was and is 74. And so at the age of 74, what we did is we took a look at their total portfolio, and they had saved and accumulated a nest egg that they had probably enough income to be comfortable to achieve the outcomes that they wanted. And so in their situation, what we're able to do is take a portion of their money and move it every year from their current account into a life leverage plan. So we're able to leverage their assets and be able to kind of reposition it into a different account to get them more benefits. So in this example, what we did is our strategy was to take $30,000 a year and move it over into an account for 10 years. So it's going to take her from 74 to age 84. And so over a 10-year time frame, allocate a set dollar of money. And immediately, day number one, she was going to have benefits that provide death benefits for her family. So the old account was a tax-deferred account, may not be the most efficient ways to transfer money on. This particular account was a life insurance strategy, and life insurance, if set correctly, could provide, tax-free, income-free, probate-free cash benefits to her beneficiaries, like her husband or kids. Then also she had immediately, day number one, protection for critical, chronic, and terminal illness. So in her situation, her dollars were leveraged right away because if she got hurt or sick first, she had her protection in place. Or, if her husband passed away and she needed help way down the road, she had that protection in place too. So, Dave and Lori were a perfect example of somebody in their 70s that planning makes sense all the time. It's not too late at age 70, and it's not too late, even when you think about somebody that maybe has some health challenges. It doesn't mean that the traditional route is always the best solution. There's other options that are out there, but when you get that question, Chaz, is age 70 too late to talk about long-term care? What are your answers?
Absolutely not. I agree. It's never too late to start talking about long-term care, even at age 70. But I think what people are concerned about is obviously the fact that long-term care insurance premiums increase the older that you get, and it does limit the number of options that are available to you if, for instance, you are uninsurable. I think another thing that's important to consider when you're talking about long-term care planning is to make sure you have a conversation with your family members as well, to make sure that you guys are on the same page, to even see if it's necessary. When I've had those questions in the meetings, clients will ask us, hey, what are the options for long-term care? And I'll kind of pose the question back to them. What have you guys discussed with your family? Is it an option to live with kids? And sometimes they say yes, and oftentimes they say no way in heck. I'm not doing that. But sometimes they do. So, but I just think it's important to have that conversation with your family, because you might think one thing, but your children may think another, and actually may appreciate or feel that it's their duty to take care of you, and maybe that's an option. But along those same lines of the uninsurable clients, when it comes to long-term care planning, one of the, I think, most interesting options that are kind of a newer sort of strategy, what we would call long-term care annuities. And I might even kick it back to you, Nolan, in a second here, because I know you've had some experience with those. But long-term care annuities are essentially, it's a long-term care plan that you can implement. You don't have to be insurable. Generally speaking, it's where you have a lump sum of money that you use to purchase the long-term care annuity. And in exchange for that lump sum payment, the insurance company will pay you out a stream of income that's guaranteed for life, and in many cases a lot more than what just the lump sum investment could do on its own. There are also other features and benefits that you can add on to it for long-term care planning. Just kind of the triggers that we're looking at. Is it a long-term care stay in a nursing facility? Are you in assisted living? Or do you just need help with two of the daily activities of living and you want to focus more on in-home care? So we can help our clients search out to see which benefits are important to them, and then find the account or the product, the annuity that has is optimized for them. But yeah, I think it's never too late to start planning for that eventuality. I think 70 to 80% of people are going to need close to about $100,000. 50 to 60% of people usually need around $200,000. So it's gonna, chances are you're going to need some money. You're going to need to have a plan in place. And if you haven't started thinking, even if it is at 70, give us a call. It's not too late.
Yeah, the key word there is leverage. So that's a great example. Is a lot of people out there, they have financial resources that they could fight that battle for a while, but that doesn't mean that you should pay dollar for healthcare related expenses. You need to make sure that you're leveraging your assets that are out there. In the example earlier, Lori is leveraging her dollars to get more bang for her buck. In your example, I had another case that we just worked with. We'll call them Joe and Susan. Susan got the traditional lump sum deposit. So she took a lump sum of money into it and had a liquid strategy that her money had the ability to grow. It included life insurance and long-term care protection. Immediately, day number one, her husband, Joe, has Parkinson's. So as we know with Parkinson's, he's not going to get the traditional coverage. And so in his case, what we did is we used one of those annuities that we were talking about that has a long-term care rider. Now, in our example, if Joe's age 70, it took him to roughly age 80 before, his benefits would probably double for long-term care. But in that scenario, if they do double for long-term care, the way that I look at it is, heaven forbid, if Joe needs some type of long-term care, he's paying 50 cents on the dollar. Mm-hmm. So these products are out there and available for you. So even if you're thinking, I may not be able to afford the traditional sense, just know that traditional long-term care insurance is just one option, and it's not usually an option that we traditionally recommend for people. We like some of the other benefits that are out there. Those of you who served in the military as a veteran-owned business, we'd love to help, talk to you about maybe what your veteran benefits are. We'd highly encourage you to spend some time with the VSO, get familiar with what your benefits are. And then even in the situation of crisis planning. So I run into a situation, I know one of the gentlemen we ran into at movie night walked up to me and said, "Hey, sorry, I haven't been to a lot of these lately. Dad's in the nursing home, and, we've been spending a lot of time with him." But finding out that Dad's in the nursing home, Dad doesn't have to spend every single dollar that he worked his entire lifetime for. We were able to connect him with an attorney in town that does elder care. And so there's still steps that can be taken in your situation. So the bottom line answer, Chris, is age 70 too late to talk about long-term care? Absolutely not. And whether you're 50, 60, 70, or 75, or 80, if you haven't looked at that, let's just have a conversation, check it off the list. We'd be more than happy to share what the solution might be for you.
It's very similar to one of my favorite sayings of all time. The best time to plant an oak tree was 20 years ago. The best time to, think about long-term care, probably a while back. But the second half of that goes, the next best time is right now. There may be alternatives to getting that black and white traditional long-term care policy. And honestly, might be more beneficial for you. But there's no time like the present to really start discussing that. 419-794-3030 is how you can get in touch with the team at America's Retirement Headquarters and start that conversation. 419-794-3030 or go to the website, arhq.com.